This is the Horse Radio Network. This is episode 55 of the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network. The Amazing Roundtable with Templeton, Thompson, Julie Goodnight, and Jeanne Lambrecht. Please support our sponsors as they make this show possible. Equestrian Collections brings the whole universe of equestrian shopping to your fingertips. Visit them at equestriancollections.com. And also to Easy Signs Online, the #1 farm sign company in the United States. Order online at easysignsonline.com.
Welcome to the Stable Scoop, with weekly shows delivered right to you. With Helena and Glenn the Geek, live from the stable, it's every week. They bring you the news through hail or high water, while using their tails as their own fly swatters. So sit on down and laugh till you poop, cause it's time again for the Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. The Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop.
This is Glenn the Geek.
And I'm Templeton Thompson, and this is the Stable Scoop Radio Show.
Well, hi, Templeton.
Hey, Glenn. How you doing, cowboy?
Good. Well, it's good to have you back. We just had you on last week's show, and you're back already.
I know. I'm so excited. You really like me to ask me back. I'm honored.
Yeah, we loved having you on, and I have to tell you, we'll tell everybody why you're here. Helena just moved to her new farm in Rhode Island. And she's in the middle of unpacking boxes. Everything went well. The only problem she had was they had torrential rains the day they actually moved. So she said it wasn't much fun there, and I know I've done that before, and it's just not a lot of fun. But she's loving the new place. She says it's cute as the dickens, and that she'll have a picture or two for us to put on the show notes next week. So.
Awesome. And I hear rain is good luck. I hear that's really good luck.
Oh,
it
really?
rained like the entire month before Sam and I got married, and we had to actually change our whole wedding location and everything. And man, years and years and years later, being married, we're
So how
rocking
long
along.
have you been married?
Oh, good luck. Gosh, we've been married, it's 12 years, and wait a minute, is it 14? See, that's bad. Sam's going to be going, honey.
It's the guy that's supposed to forget.
I know. I guess it feels like forever in the most beautiful way, and I'm really blessed. I'm just amazed with him.
Yeah,
I'm
you two
married to
seem to be a
cowboy.
good pair, because you do the music and he does the editing, and it just makes a good team.
Well, he does way more than that. Believe me, it's like unbelievable what he does. He does all of that, and I just kind of go, honey, that sounds awesome, and bless your heart, and I'd be lost without you. You wouldn't believe it, Glenn. He is so humble too, and you ought to hear him sing, which hopefully we're going to be hearing a little bit more of him singing on this new record, featuring him a little bit more. Yeah,
good.
Amazing.
Some duets.
Well, not so much duets, but sort of kind of. I guess, kind of a different kind of a way to do a duet, I reckon.
Is it tough
to do? A Planet Cowgirl duet.
Is it tough to do a duet with your husband?
No, easy.
Okay.
So easy.
I was wondering about that.
I'm so in love with him, so it's like breathing. We have a song called Like Breathing too, but, that's not on this record, but it's just easy to be with him because he's, a rock star.
Well, we should tell everybody that you were on last week's show, and if you missed that episode, you should go back and take a listen to it. It was so much fun, and we got so much good reaction. We post all our shows on the fan page for Equestrian Collections, our sponsor, and they have over 6,000 people on their fan page now. And we got so much good reaction. People love you.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, I love all those wonderful people that have been so supportive of us. We're blessed to get to do what we do for a living, and I really want to take a sec too to thank you for inviting Patty Hall to be on as well.
She was a sweetheart.
Yeah, she's an angel of a gal, and that On Horses Wings project is such a beautiful endeavor on her part in raising money for a little bit, So I really appreciate you taking the time, having her on, and being so good to both of us.
Well, we're going to have you both back again sometime, and maybe we'll add a musician or two, and we'll do a little round table with all of you, and maybe we'll do a little jamming on a show sometime. We've never done that before.
Hey, man, that sounds good to me. That sounds awesome.
I always used to hate it. I was in theater for a long, long time and owned an acting company, and we did medieval feasts, and we all used to talk in the old Shakespearean accent and, did all that. And I used to hate it when people would say, well, just talk like the king, because I played the king for 10 years.
Oh, man.
You'd do an interview, and they'd say, well, just talk like the king, like you can really just turn that on and off.
Right.
For me, it was a matter of once I put on the costume, I could just fall into the accent and fall into the whole thing. But unless I had the costume on, it was tough for me.
Well, it's funny. I think some people don't think so, maybe, but actually, I'm kind of shy. So, like, I've had a couple of people out on the road go, well, just sing me like a line or two from one of your songs, just kind of on the spot, and I'm shy like that. Unless I'm, in it and doing it, I'm very like, oh, really? I don't know. Listen to the record.
Yeah.
I'm shy.
Buy a
so,
CD.
You know what I mean? I don't know. And then I know other people who just burst out into song. I don't know. I've just kind of always been like that. But, yeah, I think it's, I don't know, different for everybody, right?
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you. I'm on that side. Where, a lot of times in groups, I back off because I'm not in character. I'm not in front of a microphone. I'm not in costume or whatever it is.
Well, and probably the same thing. I don't know, in your acting experience, it's probably, I don't know if you feel the same way, because certainly I'm not you and you're not me, but we relate as entertainers. And for me, the smaller the crowd, it's beautiful and wonderful and so intimate, and I love it. But it can be harder, too, because it's just so much smaller and so much more, I guess, energy focused on the performer, I reckon. And I love those the best because I can really interact with people and really be there and really look into their eyes. But still, it can be intimidating and scary.
Well,
I still get show nerves big time.
And there's something else, too. There's an energy that comes from a larger crowd. And you don't necessarily get that energy with the smaller crowd. We did comedy, so we relied on people laughing and, hooting and hollering and carrying on. When you have 12 people in the room, you just don't have as much energy. So for us, it was critical that we did larger groups.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're right. And then sometimes I know I've been in places where it may be just a few people, but I have to act like, I'm singing in front of 10,000. I saw Lori Morgan do that once at a benefit concert that we opened for her. It was for our Humane Society here in Dixon. And not as many people showed up as we had hoped, but we did good, and it was a beautiful event. But she performed in front of maybe 100 people like there were 20,000 out there. And that's such a big deal. And I learned a lot watching her.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
And I respect that, having, been a performer. I respect that because that shows true professionalism.
Absolutely.
That's the true professional right there that can do that. If you are a professional, if you can do that, because that's one of the toughest things to do. Because you have to bring your energy level up just like it was there 10,000 people in the audience. And
you got it.
And that is a true professional. I admire that. Well, speaking of professionals, I have to tell you, I don't know about you, but we've been chatting back and forth by email for the last week since we decided to do this show, and we have a fantastic show lined up. We have an amazing group of equestrians, and we're going to do something that we haven't really done before on the Stable Scoop Show, and that's a roundtable discussion. And we really don't have a whole lot of specific topics. We're gonna open that up. There'll be various topics we talk about, but it's the panel that I'm so excited about. We have with us today yourself, who I'm just so glad I got to meet last week, and I'm so glad you're back today co-hosting the show. And then we have a real friend of the Horse Radio Network. She's been on 2 different of our shows. She does tips for our Horse Tips show. She is the second most downloaded show we've ever done in Stable Scoop, and that's Julie Goodnight will be joining us.
Rockstar cowgirl.
And Julie, she uses your music.
She does, on her Horsemaster show. I am very honored and super grateful.
So, and you've met her in person, correct?
Oh, yeah, several times. We've spent many, many, many times together out on the road. Us carnies, as we like to call ourselves, out there in the horse expo world.
All right,
so we're family practically.
I'm gonna say that you're the best looking carnies I've ever seen. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying that. And you know what's so funny? I forgot to mention this. Helena said to me after the last time she was out, "You have a habit. Every time you're out, the show's filled with good-looking women. What is it with you? Because the last time she was out, I had the cowgirls on from the Cowgirl radio show there. And so we had 3 cowgirls on, and the time before that, for some reason, it was like 3 or 4 women on the show. And so she thinks there's a trend, and so I didn't want to disappoint her. So we have yourself and Julie, and to round out our panel today, we have Jeanne Lambrecht. Is that how you say your last name, Lambrecht?
I believe that is correct.
I believe that's correct. And
another
Jeanne,
rock star cowgirl there.
Yeah, and you know Jeanne, right?
Yeah, she's my dear, sweet, amazing, beautiful cowgirl sister. I love her very much.
And Jeanne actually is a performance coach. She's a speaker, and she's a sports therapist. She works works with people on their fear of riding, or if they have fears, competitors, serious competitors too. So she does a lot of different counseling type things there, therapist things. And I thought it was interesting that, Helena would say it's a darn good thing you have a therapist on the show when I'm not there because Glenn would need it.
I love it.
So I think
that's great.
And I also think it's good that between you, Julie, that we probably have a therapist on the show. That's probably a good thing. So
it probably is. Well, therapists rock, so I'm all about it.
So Jeanne's going to be on here too, which will be a lot of fun. But first, we have to announce everybody's been waiting to hear who won the August Horse Radio Network giveaway. We chose our winners today, and we're going to announce them. And this is who won. First, we had 2 $50 gift certificates from Equestrian Collections, our favorite retail store. We had 2 winners. Can you tell us who won? Who were the big winners?
I totally can. It looks like we have beautiful Miss Christina Turner from Star, South Carolina, looks like, and the beautiful cowgirl Judy Johnson from Normal, Illinois. Yeehaw and hallelujah, cowgirls. Congratulations.
Wow, look at the name of the town, Normal, Illinois.
I know, I love that.
She doesn't belong in our show.
It's awesome.
And then we had 75-day supply of joint armor from Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com. And the winner there was?
Drum roll, please. It's Jennifer Burnett from Springfield, Massachusetts, y'all.
Well, congratulations, Jennifer, and we hope you can use that joint armor. And then also a fantastic prize from KBC Horse Supplies here in Lexington, Kentucky at kbchorsesupplies.com. It's one of their custom triple stitch halters with custom nameplate, and that's the same ones they use for all the famous racehorses here in Lexington. Buy it from KBC. And the winner of that great halter was?
That is Miss Tamara Webb from, I hope I'm saying the town correctly, Loretto, Minnesota.
There you go. Well, congratulations to all of you. We'll be in contact with you shortly, and we'll get your prizes out to you. I know that everybody should enjoy their prizes. The Equestrian Collections gift certificates, they get to buy whatever they want. And as we know, Equestrian Collections brings the whole universe of equestrian shopping to your fingertips. On any given day, they have over $100 million worth of products for you to choose from. And, they do a lot of cool things. Jeanne and I have had relationships with a relationship here for quite a while with Chris at Equestrian Collections. And she has developed one of the neatest things on Facebook. Her fan page has really become a place for the horse community to go to just discuss stuff.
Right.
It's truly amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, I'm quite impressed.
Well, and
Chris rocks.
Yeah, Chris has been on the show several times, and she'll be back here soon. As believe it or not, we're going to be coming into Christmas season, and Chris does every year for us our English gift guide for Christmas. So she'll be back for that. But right now, they're getting in their fall items, their clothing, their blankets. If you need a blanket this year for your horse, it's going to be getting chilly soon. Just check out equestriancollections.com first. She has a ton of different blankets there and a wide selection of blankets. And, just for our listeners, if you spend over $120, you can get an additional $10 off by using the coupon code at checkout. And it's just Stable Scoop. Use the coupon code Stable Scoop at checkout, and you'll get $10 off your order of $120 or more. That's a special offer she has just for our listeners of the Stable Scoop radio show, and that's at equestriancollections.com. Well, I'll tell you what, it's time to bring our guests on. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. We just talked about who they were. I don't know about you, but I think we should just get them on the line and have some fun.
Sounds good to me, Glenn.
Well, hello, everybody. It's good to have you on, Julie and Jeanne. We're so appreciative that you've agreed to join this little experiment we're doing with this roundtable today.
Good to be
glad
here.
to be here.
Well, Julie, you have been a real friend to the Horse Radio Network, and we really appreciate it. I wanted to thank you again.
Well, it's always a pleasure, Glenn.
Heidi also, your assistant and helper and longtime friend, has been doing tips for us on trail riding, and they've been well received. So
yeah.
it's fun to deal with Heidi as well. You have a good team over there.
Yeah,
I love Heidi, too.
Yeah, she's awesome, and I do. I'm really fortunate to have a good team behind me all the way around here in my business. That's why I can be on the road so much.
Well, and I hear you're doing some recording at the farm this week. Is that right?
Yes, we're filming the TV show next week, just after Labor Day, and we do 4 shoots a year, so this will be our 4th one for the year.
And is it close? You're staying home for this one?
Yeah, we try to film once a year here at my place in Colorado. There's never really a time of year when the weather's totally reliable, but September is about as close as you can get. So, yeah, so we'll be filming here, and we've got all our fingers and all our toes crossed that it doesn't blow 100 miles an hour and have thunderstorms all afternoon.
And I have to say that I don't know who it is, but that's great music you have on your show.
Well, we were very lucky to find such a wonderful theme song, and aside from it being a great song that's fun to sing and fun to dance to, I love the lyrics as well. Because I always
Julie. I agree. It's being here. I agree. I think the lyrics are really empowering, and actually it's because of Julie that I found out about Templeton, because I watched all of Julie's shows, and I kept finding myself rewinding to the beginning to hear the song again. And so I finally went, okay, I'm just going to buy the CD. Oh, Jeanne, I love you. Man, I'm blessed. I have beautiful, wonderful cowgirls in my world here on Planet Cow. Makes me happy.
Well, it is. The lyrics are empowering, like the line, I always saddle my own horse, and don't call me baby. And but the funny story about that is when we were first developing the show, it was actually Heidi's idea about using one of Templeton's songs, because we'd known Templeton and heard her perform numerous times and loved her music. And the legalities of that got really complicated with other musicians and royalties and all of that. But my actual first choice was the Cowgirl Creed. But the producer of the show thought the lyrics were too sassy. And so
I don't know. When I think of Templeton, I don't think of sassy. Not in that way, anyway.
Oh, I can be sassy. Oh, you don't know me well enough yet.
There are some kind of sassy lyrics in there, and that's exactly what I loved about it. Besides, I just love the song, the music. But I thought that was pretty funny. And then what happened ultimately is because all the other songs that were in contention, there were so many other musicians on them that it just got too complicated a deal to work out. So I got to go back to my first choice, which was the sassy song.
Maybe that's what we should call it from now on, the sassy song. It's hard.
Hey, Templeton, can you tell everybody, just for the people who have not, the few horse people who have not seen Julie's program, which song was it that is on Julie's?
The Cowgirl Creed.
Oh, it is the Cowgirl Creed, and they can find that on which album?
That is on my Girls on Horse CD.
Okay, good. Well, I'll tell you what, we heard another voice there, and that was Jeanne's. Jeanne, I'll tell you what, we just met a few weeks ago. I know that you know the other two here, but we met a few weeks ago in an interesting place, and it really leads into one of the things I wanted to start the conversation with today. We actually met because we are both administrators and help out and post things over on Equestrian Collections fan page on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And really, we sort of have gotten to know each other from there. And that leads into, we're all professional horse people. We all do something different. I do radio. Julie does everything, including TV and clinics and just basically helping the horse world. Jeanne, you're helping individuals in many cases. And then Templeton's just making us all very happy. But we're all in business doing it. How has new media, how has technology between Twitter and the internet and your websites and all that's available to us today, and now Facebook with 6,000 people following on the fan page on Equestrian Collections, how has that helped develop your businesses in the last year? Julie, you start there?
Well, gosh, in today's business world, keeping up with the technology is a full-time job. And again, that's why I'm lucky to have somebody on my staff whose job is to keep up with all that stuff. But the connectivity...
Oh, you are so lucky.
Yeah, the connectivity that is there with, all the social networking and all that stuff. And I love Twitter because I even though I talk for a living, I'm actually a person of few words, and so Twitter fits in perfectly to my, as opposed to the blog. And I've been blogging for a little over a year now, and I enjoy that. It's been a real learning experience for me, and occasionally I say things that have to get edited out. Because, you get carried away thinking you're really just writing a private story, and then you realize it's going out to the whole wide world. But
you get sassy there, Julie, on Twitter?
Well, those of you that know me know that I have kind of a dry sense of humor, which doesn't always carry well over to the written word. Sometimes it just sounds like you're a smart aleck. So.
Oh, I love it. But sometimes that's a good thing. It's all good,
Well, I
gotta let the sassy out.
It's good to find a balance, and but I think just professionally in our business, because we're everything from retail sales to producing a television show to a pretty major internet and social networking presence, but we're doing business with big companies in the horse industries, companies that do have more than one full-time person doing all this stuff. So if we don't keep up with what the big company and the commercial world in general is doing, then we're left behind. And one thing I have to say about the horse business is horse trainers are a crowd that's easy to look good in front of, because there aren't very many horse trainers doing things like the internet and sitting in front of a computer and writing blogs and on Twitter and all that. So one thing that we recognized was that gives us a leg up on other people that are doing the same thing. How do we differentiate ourselves from, just another clinician or whatever? So that's how, that's the way I see it.
How about you, Templeton? Now, you're in a little bit different situation because you're a musician. It would have been tough 10 years ago to get the kind of recognition that you've gotten now without the internet, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 10 years ago, I would have probably needed that, the typical record deal to get really out to the people. But yeah, the internet's amazing. And I was sitting here thinking about Jeanne, my cowgirl sister. And, I wouldn't know her had it not been for Facebook. And she's family to me now. And I know her all because of the internet. It's kind of unbelievable, And, I think there's no way that we could have gotten our music out as much as we've been able to without the internet. And actually another Facebook friend is the one who suggested I even do the Facebook thing, and then said, you can tweet and do Facebook all at the same time. And I'm like, what does tweeting mean? I don't understand. But then now, now that I've figured it out, and Julie, you were talking about how you dig that it's like, you don't have to say it. There's not, and so, you don't have to say a whole bunch there. I'm back out, and Sam totally makes fun of me. I'll sit there and tweet like lines at a time because there's not enough room. I'm not a good editor. I'm finding actually was not my strong suit in college either. So which I'm now finding also as I'm doing my liner notes for my new album. Right, Life on Planet Cowgirl. That's another story. But anyway, without the internet, there's no way I could be getting out to the folks that I'm getting out to and getting our music out to so many people. So it's a blessing.
Well, of course, we wouldn't be doing anything in the Horse Radio Network if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for the internet and new media. And that's what's really getting the word out about us and about the shows is Facebook and Twitter, and just the conversations people are having, forums and things like that have really got it out there. Jeanne, now have you developed any clients through the internet, or has that all been pretty much word of mouth? How do you develop your clients? And when we talk about clients in your case, we're talking about athletes in this case, the riders, right?
Well, no, not just I wouldn't say not just elite level athletes. I mean, I work with a whole range of people, and including those elite level athletes. But I work with the average rider as well, and that was something that when I came up with this idea, and it came up out of demand because I had, been in barns and I'd watched people suffer, basically, where they had the best tack and the best gear and the spotless show clothing, but they were terrified to get on their horse. And I would look at them and I would know from my own background how solvable their problem was. And the more I looked around, the more it was everywhere. And so I was like, there's hope, and there's hope for this. And so that's kind of how it started for me. And then there's been an extraordinary, amount of word of mouth. But a lot of that has been through the internet, because what it'll be is somebody, for example, will go to my website and they'll listen to, let's say, the Jeanne Savoy interview. That has a ton of tips and strategies for the fear stuff, or they'll listen to the WOW radio interview or whatever. And then it will give them some hook, some spark, and then they'll share it with all their friends. And then it's really interesting for me because I have some excellent software that will show me where the people from my website are going, coming from all over the world. And it's wild because I'll watch, oh my gosh, I'm blowing up in New York City today, or boy, there's a ton of thing, happening in Brisbane, Australia, or in South America has been big for me for whatever reason. But I can actually watch it happen. I can watch people sharing it with their friends, and they tell me that too. They'll share it with their friends, and then it's kind of contagious. And the thing is, I can work with people from all over the world, because what's a little unique because of the kind of thing that I work with, because it's a lot of the mental side of writing rather than teaching writing, I can do a lot of it over the phone. And so let's say if there's somebody in Montana or whatever that's struggling with these issues and there's nobody available, and I know when I struggled myself, there wasn't anybody available for me locally, they can access that. And so there's been a lot of it has just been through people getting something out of what I put out there, and especially with my thoughts on fear page and stuff like that, getting something from that and then sharing it with their friends. And that, I would say, more than anything, has been the biggest draw from my business. And yes, definitely, I've had tons of stuff from the internet. And then too, I do seminars and stuff like that. So a bunch of that group of people will get together and they'll say, we want you to come to Massachusetts or whatever. And then I'll go do a seminar there. So that's kind of how it's been. It's been really amazing. I think my favorite thing, though, about using the internet and social networks like Facebook is that it allows me to connect and tune in with fellow horse people who are just like me and who experience the same things and able to share a lot of what they don't know about, that there's hope for what they struggle with. So that's what I'm loving about it.
I think it's interesting, Jeanne, that you mentioned word of mouth, because the horse business has always been primarily a word of mouth business long before the internet, and it still is. And any marketing seminar you'll take on, and including I have done making it in the horse business kind of seminars. And 15 years ago, I was talking about the importance of word of mouth and how you capitalize on word of mouth. How do you find a trainer? You shouldn't go to the internet and just look up trainers and then pick one. You go to the internet and or you ask your friends. What I tell people with looking for a trainer is you really have to go by word of mouth. You have to go on personal experiences other people have had, but the internet has made word of mouth exponentially more powerful.
Mhm. Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you, because now people are able to share that with a broader base of people all at once. I mean, that's another thing that I love about the opportunities that I have with the new media, that I'm able to, if I find a nugget, if I find some brilliant insight or something that I think is really helpful, I can put it out there and, like on my fan page or whatever, and bam, it's out to 700 plus people. Or I can go to Equestrian Collections and it's bam, out to 6,000 plus people. And then everybody can benefit from it right away, as opposed to writing what? It says 7,000 emails? Well, it's so much easier to brag on people now and just click on, or this beautiful piece of art that someone posted this morning on Facebook, and go ahead and just share that with all your friends. It's so easy.
Oh, my gosh, we got the funniest thing. Somebody posted on my Facebook page the other day a song to sing while you're cleaning a gelding sheath.
Oh, my goodness.
To
the tune of Three Blind Mice, and it is so hilarious. I immediately had to email it to a bunch of people. So,
Julie's being sassy again. Watch out.
That's a whole new song for Templeton.
Oh, that is hilarious. Oh,
you could probably do a whole CD on that topic, Templeton.
I guess you could. Yeah. Moving on, Clint. That's awesome.
You were talking about seminars and stuff, and this is going to be a rather deep topic, but it's something that actually came up when I was talking to someone today. I won't mention who. We were recording some tips for the Horse Tips Daily Show, and he was talking about how he feels that back to the 1800s even, how a certain amount of horsemanship that was ingrained into people back then because they had to ride has been lost through the 20th century there. Along the way, because people didn't have to ride anymore. Do you feel, Julie and Jeanne and Templeton, that going out, that we've had 20, 30 years now of expos and clinics, and we've had all of the big names out doing them. Do you feel that we are a better horseman now as a result of all the information that's been put out there? Or have we lost some of that horsemanship that was really ingrained in people back when they had to use horses? There's a deep one for you.
I don't think so. I think that what we've lost has been good riddance. And the Industrial Revolution forever changed horsemanship and horse sports because they lost their utilitarian purpose. But to me, classical horsemanship is the root of all horsemanship. And although I'm considered a natural horsemanship trainer, I have a very strong classical background. I learned to ride under the direction of retired cavalry officers who, what they taught was very classical horsemanship going back thousands of years. And it is still the fundamentals of everything. What we've, the trends of the last 20, 30 years has been towards understanding behavior and natural horsemanship, and none of that would have been possible if horses were still strictly work animals to us, because you don't even care about that then. You just care about getting the job done and the delivery made, or the, whatever, the field plowed. But I think that what we lost from the back in the day when horses were strictly utilitarian, or virtually almost entirely utilitarian, is we lost a lot of the brutality and the use them up and throw them away. Not that doesn't exist today, because it still does, but and that opened the door for natural horsemanship, which is you might say a more holistic way of looking at the horse and respecting the animal for the animal that it is. So.
Yeah, I agree with Julie, and actually, pretty much on all fronts. I think some of this business of, the way it used to be. I think it's looking at it through, rose-colored glasses, the good old days. I don't think that there's, because, I've looked at these issues, and I don't think there's a lot of evidence for, a lot of good coming out of that. Some of the standard practices of, the way that horses were treated before all of this, before the Industrial Revolution, was horrible. And so whereas, now maybe not every member of my family rides and would have training or background or whatever, so I would have to start from the beginning. There's plenty of resources out there where I can get that information, but I would not sit there and imagine that all of those people who rode were great horsemen.
Well, and one thing I would add to that is that the pendulum has swung the other way, and as we start swinging away from that workhorse mentality, we start getting into the sort of foo-foo, my horses are pets, my horses have rights, we start getting into the whole pet thing, which is dangerous territory for the horse industry, in my mind, because I spend 80% of all my clinics trying to explain to people, these are not dogs, these are not people, this is not your baby, it's a horse. And horses are big, dangerous, and sometimes destructive animals. So you know what I'm saying in terms of the pendulum swinging the other way.
I think that's where I was trying to go with the question, actually, a little bit, is we've gone away from just what you said, and I see so many people where those horses are their kids, and they treat them like kids. And you're right. A lot of times they end up getting hurt because of it. They're just not as aware as they should be. Or
a horse gets ruined. I think that's a huge tragedy. There's not a clinic that goes by that I don't see 6 or 7-year-old horses that have been trained by an amateur that has no raised and trained by an amateur that has no clue what they're doing, and what could have been a really good horse is forever going to be a difficult horse because he's been mishandled, and he's learned from the mishandling that he's allowed to challenge riders or test riders or whatever it is that he's learned. It's usually not. It's usually a host of things. So.
Well, I think in some respects, Julie, I'm sort of between those places. I think on the one hand, I definitely would refer to my horses as my babies. I love them.
Me too, right now.
So I'm not, I can't sit there and claim that, I'm all the way to that, to that side. However, I recognize, and I've done so much reading on horse behavior. The natural way that the horses, engage in the wild. And I think it's incredibly important to understand and respect a horse's natural way of being, meaning, that they need a leader. And you have to be aware of the signals that you send them. And you can't let them get away with murder because that's damaging both for both of you. And so that's what I'm saying. It's kind of funny. I'm sort of in between. I definitely don't.
Yeah, but that's a big difference right there, though, Jeanne. That you have studied it and you do understand it. Yes, you love your horses, and your horses are there to give you personal pleasure. And if what gives you personal pleasure is kissing them on the mouth or whatever, giving them treats, then so be it. And also, I grew up in this business, and I count my lucky stars for that. And I didn't grow up with horses being pets. I grew up with horses being horses, and my father, was the first horseman to influence me. Was never a professional or anything like that, but he was a very no fuss, no muss. These are horses.
See, that's probably
pets.
a big
and
difference.
We bought horses and we sold horses, and horses came and went. We didn't get a horse and keep it for the rest of its life. There were some horses we had all their lives, but most of them came and went as we needed a new one for. So when I talk to people and they say things like that, I've got this horse that's inappropriate for me, that's bucked me off 6 times and put me in the hospital twice in the last year. But I would never get rid of my horse. Once I get one, I keep it for the rest of its life. That's, I understand where people are coming from when they say those things, but I was fortunate to I was not brought up that way. I was brought up that there's too many good horses to mess around with a bad one, and horses can kill you. So, wake up and smell the roses, and just because you're not working out with this horse doesn't mean somebody else couldn't do just fine with this horse. So, that I recognize all the time that my perspectives are very different from having grown up in the horse business than somebody who's coming to it as an adult rider or coming back to it as an adult rider like we're dealing with so much today.
It's funny here, Julie. I'm sorry, Glenn. Did I just interrupt you?
No, go ahead.
No, well, it's interesting hearing all that because, Jeanne, what you said, I think I certainly more fall in the middle of the road, and for me, like Julie, you being, I guess, just folks raised differently, and for me, horses have always been. I'm the quintessential cowgirl girl that my horses were my best friends growing up. That's all I knew them as. They were just another member of the family to me, and my therapist, and got me through things that I probably could never have gotten through on my own. That's for dang sure. And so yeah, I'm one of those that they're my children. In fact, I'm just sitting here listening to y'all talking, and I'm looking out the window and I'm seeing them running up and just like my babies, so I'm
they're not
I'm on that side of it.
That's a good sign.
No, they would be. They would come in.
I was going to say they probably would be.
Oh, you know it. But at the same time, though, I'm thinking about what Jeanne said too, and thank God because of the internet and because of networks like RFD TV, right, Julie, with your show Horsemaster, and there's so much more knowledge out there that certainly when I was growing up and riding, I didn't have that knowledge, and I got hurt a lot, and still when I get hurt, I always point the finger right at myself, and it's always my fault, total human error, in my opinion. But there's so much more knowledge, and thank God for that. Thank God for those networks out there that are offering it. Thank God for the internet. So there's,
thank God for the Horse Radio Network. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
And thank God for Glenn and the Horse Radio Network, because there is so much knowledge, and and it's a blessing because it's a new day, and thank God for the natural horsemanship movement. I'm all about it. We got to treat these babies right, and I'm convinced, I got to say this, that in my opinion, horses are smarter than we are because they have 4 feet on the ground, just 2. That's just where I stand, but that's just me.
Well, and they have us feeding them and pampering them and all of that, too. I mean, that makes them pretty smart in my book.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, I did want to give some support, though, to something that Julie did say, and then I want to make it clear that I support very strongly a piece of, a lot of it, but this bit about people who orient towards their horses, first of all, as people, not orienting towards their horses as a horse. Because, horses, as at least this group knows, think and experience the world differently. They require a different kind of social structure. They interpret our behaviors differently because we're a different species. I think that people who orient towards their horses as other people and are doing the kind of thing that Julia was referring, talking about, basically indulging them and not, understanding, interpreting, and respecting what they require in terms of interaction and setting boundaries. I think it damages horses. I think it damages people. And then people are going, well, I don't know, I just have a crazy horse. And it's like, no, you don't have a crazy horse. You made this horse crazy,
It's doing the horse a disservice. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I want to make it clear, though, that I really strongly support that.
I
setting
think there's
boundaries.
a happy medium, and that's what you just stated earlier, Jeanne, was that, yes, I can love my horse and I can be his best friend and all that, but I have the power of understanding horse behavior and being able to alter my thinking to the nature of the horse and not try to make the horse be have the nature of the human and fulfill some other role that he's incapable of.
Well, I'm like with, Julie, I'm one of those folks who, I'm not as we know, right? I'm a singer-songwriter and a girl who's crazy about horses. I'm not a trainer by any stretch, ever will be, but bless Jane and Bo's hearts, my children, my big kiddos, I'm all they've had, except for the wonderful times that I've gotten to ride with incredible people like yourself, Miss Julie. getting to do that on that episode that one time, and other amazing horse people that I've been blessed to spend time with. But it's me, working with them, and boy, I have moments where that shows up and kind of blows up in my face sometimes because sometimes I forget that I need to be the leader, that it's going to keep me and my baby girl, Jeanne, safe on the road when we're out performing. I know she needs me to be a leader, and believe me, I'm so well aware of that, and I guess sometimes I just have to hear it over and over and over again because it's the best thing for both of us. So it's hard for me, it's really hard because she's my baby, but at the same time to keep her safe. I have to always look at it that way. It's like I want to keep her safe when she and I are out performing, both of us safe, so I've got to not be a passenger. I've got to be driving and a leader, and it's way more fair to her than just being a passenger, I guess.
And she's happier.
Tricky. And she's happier, but I'll tell you, it is tricky because she is, so performing sometimes, and she understands things, and so it is tricky. It is very tricky, and I know that I mess up left and right with her, and that's when I'm so grateful. They're so unconditional. Thank God for that.
Hey,
unconditional indifference. That's one of the best lines I heard about a horse, that I feed him, I work hard so I can pay the board, I buy the best blanket, I buy the best bit, I got a new saddle, new pad, I do all this stuff, and for what I get in return from that from my horse is his unconditional indifference.
That makes horses and cats a lot alike, doesn't it?
It does. Well, you know how this is totally off the point, but you know how cats and horses are alike? Or I should say different from dogs. I mean, cats are solitary hunters. They don't rely on other cats to get their food. And horses don't rely on other horses to get their food. They can do just fine in that department if you'll just turn them loose. What horses are reliant on the herd from is for safety and comfort. And that's why when you show that leadership to that horse and you keep him safe and make him comfortable, then he does respect your authority and he respects you as the leader because that's the leader's job. So it is. We laugh about cats, but that's why dogs are different than cats as well. Dogs hunt in packs. Dogs are reliant on the herd for their food. So they just have that different perspective than a horse does.
Well, and it's a very different mentality, too, because they're prey animals, and so their orientation is very different as opposed to, the human, which, I'd say is more along the line of a predator. And, that whole prey animal perspective is that, which has kept them alive for, all these years and helped them survive is this, hyper awareness and sensitivity to, possible danger and all of those things, and understanding that, the ways in which we engage with them, what they need from us is different from what we need from each other. That didn't make any sense at all.
Yes, it did, actually. And
okay, go on.
I just wanted to say that I know a lot of humans that are indifferent, too. But that's a different topic altogether. Hey, Jeanne, you had sent a suggestion that I wanted to follow up on. Being a horse husband, I picked right up on this one. You had sent a suggestion for a topic today, balancing riding with everything else, i.e. spending too much or too little time at the barn, problems, guilt that can arise from this, and not to mention divorces and everything else. Let's talk a little bit about that. How do you balance the horse world and especially for Julie? I mean, it must be really tough for you. How do you balance that, still stay married, still have a happy relationship, and, how do you accomplish that goal?
Is this question for me?
For anybody.
Okay. Well, I'll take it then for right now. You go, girl.
Yeah, nobody else was jumping in, so.
All right. One thing that I'm extraordinarily blessed by is that my boyfriend is a horse guy. He loves horses almost as much as I do. And so that is totally how I get out of it, because time with our horses is time spent together. And I'm really fortunate for that. But, not everybody has that blessing. And it's, what I really see is I see it in the extremes. People who spend way too much time with their horses and at the barn and all that, so where their husband barely sees them and their kids are jealous. Or I see the people who have their horses and love their horses and pay their board but barely see them because that's time that's taken just for them. And it's like a lot of things that people do. They'll put themselves to the back of the list, especially women, put the back of the list.
Particularly women.
Yeah, that's right. And not take that time. And I think I almost see that more is those people who, and then they feel tremendous, they feel guilt and they're stressed and they're not getting what they need, for themselves. I know for my own self that horses, for me, time spent with horses throughout my life has been the one thing where I could go to and it would allow me to completely release everything else because horses are so present. And they require me, they engage me to be present because if I'm anywhere else, they let me know I'm anywhere else. And so it allows me to sort of just let go of everything and just to be there and unload like a ton of stuff. It's so crazy because I could be, stressed out of my gourd. I go out and I hang out with my horses and it's almost magical. It's like poof, it's gone at the end. I'm like, and I don't even realize it because they require me to be with them and therefore I can't sit there and mull about my brakes or, my car aren't working or whatever, I can't sit there and mull about the things that I'm worried about because they make me be with them. And so I think it's very self-nurturing. And I think that's just a general, problem for a lot of people. And it's creating that time and communicating that need for that to loved ones and scheduling it and then honoring that.
Absolutely. Well, and Jeanne, the whole therapy thing, right? My God, that's why horses are such amazing facilitators in equine assisted psychotherapy and EGALA certified work. It's incredible how they know what you need. But they just know it. They know it just instinctively. It is unbelievable. I can be having the worst day, and just, which, I don't luckily have too many bad days. I feel so blessed with my life, but everything changes. It's that. It absolutely changes. I can just look outside and see him, and I'm healed. It's all good. So I'm blessed by that every day. But I did have a funny thing to say that, how I balance, how Sam helps me balance. He doesn't let me have a light out in the arena. So I can't be out.
Oh, that's fine. Sam and I are cut from the same mold. When we built our indoor arena, my husband actually went to an auction and bought these huge lights for the arena.
Oh.
I put my foot down and I said, absolutely not. There will not be lights in the arena. Yeah. So we still have this beautiful indoor arena, but I refuse to put lights in it.
I guess there's a trick there. I know, because Sammy and I were always joking about that. I'm like, honey, someday though, indoor riding arena, studio, like big loft studio with big windows, and I can be riding, and you just holler at me when it's time to do vocals, and then perfect. Talk about best of both worlds. Just got to get independently wealthy. I'm working on it.
Well, I was fortunate, and I was already pretty entrenched in the horse business when I met my husband, and 7 years later we got married, so it wasn't like he didn't understand what the deal was. But he wasn't into horses at all when we met. I met him through skiing. And,
really?
Oh, yeah, and he's part owner and CEO of a ski resort, so that's our other passion. But he did get into horses, and now he does his own thing. I try to join him when I can, but that's not very often. But he totally does his own thing. And women ask me all the time, how'd you get your husband into horses? And my standard reply is, be very careful what you wish for.
Exactly.
Because is that how it happened for you, Glenn, too?
I actually married into it. I didn't know a thing about horses. I grew up in Amish country, so the only thing I knew is we had to pass them on the road all the time, and it drove me insane. But that's the only thing I knew about horses. So when I met my wife, she was an eventer and a pony clubber, and she had a barn and a stable and boarding stable and everything. So I got thrown into it. And then eventually, I went through, I can honestly say I went through all the emotions, especially when we were first dating and all of that stuff. Because, I was 20-some years old. I didn't know. And all I knew is I wasn't getting to spend time with her. And she was out there with the horses. And I think probably every relationship that finally makes it then in the end, every relationship that makes it, the guy, if he was in our position, like your husband, Julie, and me, is you do go through all of those emotions along different stages. By the way, then I got into driving horses. Then eventually I owned more horses than she did. So it swung the other way a little bit. Then I couldn't use all those excuses anymore. And I lost a lot of my leverage, actually. So I think, though, that the ones of us who get into it that were not involved before and married into it, we do, even if you date for a long time like that, he probably went through a lot of the same emotions I did and every other horse husband does. It is, and then you get through it, and then you get to a point where you realize, and I think there's a point where this happens. There's a day you wake up and go, oh, if she doesn't get her horse time, it's worse for me than if we're spending time together.
Yes, go ride.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's a little bit different for me because it's my job. It's the way I make a living, and I make a pretty decent living, which in part provides us with this really nice place that we live and horses that we enjoy. So he couldn't really begrudge me going to work too much, and that was my thing about not having lights in the indoor arena. I don't want to work at night. I work all day. And so I think, Jeanne, earlier when you were talking, I was just thinking about just take a typical woman, and she's got, 3 kids in junior high and high school and a husband, and she's a homemaker, and she's into horses, and she boards her horse someplace, and she's got kids to take to soccer and football and whatever, go on, and then get home and run a household and provide food and laundry and all that stuff for a family of 5 or whatever. How could you possibly have time for horses, But then I go into a lot of barns that are full of boarders that fit into that category, and about 10 o'clock in the morning, they're all down there having a grand old time, and, so they find it. But you do have to be willing to make time for number one.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You have to create that time, because it's kind of like, well, where does that same lady have time to work out or whatever?
Right.
It's something that time has to be created. And I did have to give my dentist a shout out about this, because about the business of horse partnership, because he did not ride when I met him. And right after our first date, he signed up for riding lessons.
And now he's a polo player? Oh, my God, Jeanne, I didn't realize.
So he has 10 horses.
and now we have 5. And now, because Saturday I lost him to polo. He was going playing polo.
And now there's no room for yours. Yours are out.
I just had a natural rider for that.
Well, they always. I've always heard the saying that if women, either your horse husbands get into horses, or they better play golf. It's one or the other. They have to have their own hobby to occupy their time, or skiing or whatever it is. But if they don't have a hobby, is when I've tended to see them have problems in their marriage. Is if the horse husband has nothing else except the wife who has a hobby. That could probably be true the other way, or with any sport or avocation that takes a lot of time.
Well, I don't know. Golf is the only sport that takes more time than horses.
That's true.
As far as I
it probably costs more.
My husband, when we met, my husband was an obsessive golfer, and watched the Golf Channel at 3 o'clock in the morning and stand in front of the window practicing his golf swing and watching his reflection, and just crazy obsessive about golf. And then a real funny thing happened. We were in Kauai, and I do a lot of clinics over there, and I was doing clinics, and a real dear friend of mine who's a trainer over there and a rancher, he put my husband up on a cutting horse, and he gave him a private lesson, and he pretended to be the cow and, got down on the ground, and they did some cutting exercises, and Rich was just smitten with cutting. And then what happened simultaneously was we were in Kauai for a week, and some of the best golf courses in the world, and Rich had brought his revered set of golf clubs with him, but he didn't play golf the whole week we were in Kauai because he went and rode this cutting horse every day. And then,
good choice.
Then when we went from Kauai to Maui, I had a clinic that next weekend in Maui. And on our flight from Kauai to Maui, which is like about a 10-minute flight, you know, you get up and then you land, his golf clubs disappeared, never to be seen again.
Oh, my God. It was a sign.
I jokingly told him that the golf gods were mad at him because he went to Kauai and didn't play golf, and he rode horses every day. And ultimately, when it, months later, it became obvious the airline had permanently lost his clubs, and he got a check. They reimbursed him for the full value of the clubs, which was a lot.
And then he bought a saddle, right?
Well, that was his transformation into horses, and I'll tell you the truth, he did not pick up a golf club for 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And he's just now, this was about 5 years ago, he's just now this summer started going to the driving range, and now I'm worried that he's going to fall back into his obsession and we'll have to put his horse in mothballs. But
he's such a nice guy. I think Julie's story may set up a string of golf club theft.
Well, guys, we are plain running out of time, believe it or not. But there is one. Wow. I got an email from a girl who's 15 years old, and she wanted. She knew that we were doing this show from Facebook, actually. And she had a question that she wanted to ask, and I thought we'll just spend a minute or two on her question. She basically, it was a long email. She basically said she boards her horse, and there's people at the barn who do not treat the horses well. And she was wondering, it's driving her insane, and she's wondering, how do you handle other people at the barn who don't treat their horses nicely? And, basically what she was saying, without being shunned out of the barn. And that's a tough one. I don't know that, I'd love to hear your opinions, but I owned a boarding stable where, that stuff just does happen, and it's tough.
Well, first of all, I think that in a boarding stable situation, that the tone of that environment is set at the top. And every barn I walk into, and that's a lot of barns throughout the year, has an atmosphere and a culture which is pretty immediately palpable to me. And so I would, that's the first thing I would say. I would look to what's going on at the top and the way that facility is being run. And if it's not acceptable, I'd go somewhere else. But the other thing, my husband says to me all the time, he's kind of gotten over it now, but we'll be at a horse show or something, or anywhere where horse people are, and somebody will be doing something really stupid and or abusive or whatever, dangerous. And Rich will look at me and say, aren't you going to say something? And I say, no, absolutely not. If somebody asks me for my help, I will give it and then some. If you ask me for my opinion or you ask me to help you with your horse, no holds barred. You'll get all the help you want. But I have learned, like most trainers have, don't offer help unless it's asked for, because somebody has to be in the right frame of mind to receive your advice. And unless they are asking for it and have reason to respect it, you're just sort of asking for a fight. So unfortunately that's true. But the other thing that I say all the time to people, and here's an area where this comes up a lot, is, for instance, I talk a lot about being careful at feed time for not allowing your horse to display aggressive behaviors, and just don't feed them when they're acting that way. But if you're at a boarding stable, what do? Well, what I would do is go to my website and print out an article on that subject written by a third party who's, a professional, and say, hey, I found an interesting article here. This might help with the way these horses are acting bad at feed time. Why don't you read the article? So you just go find some independent information and leave it in their tech trunk or whatever. So you can find ways to educate people.
And I think I'll throw in here, having owned a large boarding stable too, there are people that you get in that hide very well from the owners or the operators of the stable. I would suggest that she talk to the owners or the operators of the stable and explain her concerns. If it is a truly top-down situation like you're talking about, Julie, nothing will happen. And nothing will change. And if that's the case, then go take a look somewhere else. But we have had situations in our barn where we didn't know that this stuff was going on. They hid it very well from us. And then once we were aware and we watched a little closer, we saw the problem moved. Moved on to somebody else's stable.
Absolutely.
So it's worth a try that way if you have a good relationship.
The bottom line is it's not her job, especially being a child, to resolve this issue or confront the people in question.
Right.
That's, what you're saying is that's the job of the person that manages the facility. And if it's a decent facility, they'll be on it like white on rice.
Right, exactly. And in a couple of those cases, we just weren't aware.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, guys. Go ahead.
Okay.
Jeanne.
The one thing I was going to say is that, what Julie was saying about, sometimes it can be just starting a fight, piping up and bringing those things up. One thing that I found very helpful, and it was probably one of the best things I ever learned in doc school, was I was talking about a client with a supervisor, and the supervisor said, if you could say anything to that person, what would you say? And, of course, you have that answer right there, like, why are you with this guy? Whatever, whatever it is, the impulse that you want to say. And he goes, good. Now find a way to say it so she can hear it. And that guideline has been incredibly helpful for me because usually there's a way to say it if you can reflect on it, but it can be heard. Now, I'm not saying, again, because what, Julie's saying this person is, 15 years old and it's not her responsibility to be doing these things, but as a general guideline when you're trying to communicate something that's difficult, that little exercise I found to be really helpful.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we have to wrap it up. We're running out of time. We'll give some contact information here. Jeanne, what's your website and Twitter and all that stuff?
My website is www.jeannelambrecht.com. It's JEANNELA, M as in Mary, BRECHT. My Twitter is the same thing, basically, because at Jeanne Lambrecht. Same thing. I have a Facebook fan page as well. So that's where you can find me.
Good. And Julie?
Well, I'm at juliegoodnight.com and Twitter/juliegoodnight.com and YouTube and Facebook and all those other things as well. So pretty easy to find. Yeah,
Julie's everywhere. And all over the Horse Radio Network, I might add. And then Templeton, we'll mention you're going to stay with me here for a couple of minutes as we wrap up the show. We appreciate everybody else being on, Jeanne and Julie. This has been fun. I think it was a great idea, and just some deep, serious thought going on here, which is good.
And some less than deep.
Some happiness. That's a good thing. And I just got to say, oh, man, I'm happy. Joy, joy, joy. My bow just came flying up through the pasture. Man, ain't nothing like it. We're blessed, aren't we? Our baby. Our children. But I got to quickly just say to Jeanne and Julie, I just love y'all, and I'm just really blessed to have you as friends, and I'm just really glad that we all know each other. So thanks for joining us today. This has been a real treat, and I'm looking forward to seeing you both down this beautiful, wonderful road really soon, okay? I love y'all.
Thank you so much. Love you back.
Hey, we'll be right back here with Templeton and I to finish out the show. We have a couple other things to talk about, but if it's okay with you guys, I thought I would take us out with, if it's okay with you, Templeton, how about I take this segment out with the Cowgirl Creed?
Oh, sweet. The sexy song. Okay.
She said I can do that. It wouldn't take nothing but a whole lot of heart, iron will and gumption. I'll just use what the good Lord gave me. So don't call me honey, and don't call me baby. Don't call me baby. I ride high in the saddle, always saddle my own horse. Still I'm every inch a lady, from the outside to the core.
Well, this has been a great deal of fun, Templeton. It's been, it's like good friends sitting around the tack room, drinking hot chocolate and talking about horse stuff. It's what this show was really meant for. And, the Stable Scoop show is still the most popular one on the network over the World Equestrian Games show and eventing and dressage and horse tips. Stable Scoop has always, in the year we've done this, been the top one. And one of the recurring themes that we hear is that it's conversation. Helena, I got to give credit to Helena, too. She's fantastic as a co-host.
She's awesome. Yeah,
she
awesome.
says what she thinks. You know exactly where Helena's at all the time. She's passionate about things, and she's just a good compliment to me. And I just love doing this show with her. It's a highlight of my week every week. And one of the other things that people say in every email I get about the Stable Scoop show, why they listen, is it's fun, it's funny, and entertaining. And I think we should end with some entertainment. I said all of that just to get to this, that we should end with some entertainment. Why don't we end with one of your songs? What do we want to play?
How about a little bit of the Sketches version of Life on Planet Cowgirl? What do you think?
Life on Planet, isn't that? And that's the new CD you're working on, right?
Yeah, the fully produced one is. She'll be out, by the end of September. We are diligently working away.
So it'll be ready for Christmas?
Oh, yeah, ready for Christmas, so show.
All right, well, we do our Christmas episode of gift buying episode. We're going to have to make sure it's one of our recommendations then.
Oh, man, that would be awesome, Glenn.
Thank we're going to put it on the list for sure. So the song is called Life on Planet Cowgirl, right?
You got it.
All right. Well, Templeton, it's been a joy. Until we meet again next week, everybody, we'll be back with Helena, and we'll have Templeton on sometime again soon. And here's Life on Planet Cowgirl.
It's dreaming big and working hard and having faith. Making sure you make the most of every breath you take. Knowing that today ain't just another day going by. It's living every moment in the here and now. Knowing that there's blue skies back behind the clouds. Never saying never, 'cause that just ain't how you ride. That's life on planet Cowgirl, and I'm grateful every day that I get to call it mine.